Collateral. It's the last movie I watched. Hey there, Danielle Kestner here, and welcome to another episode of It's the Last Movie I Watched, the show where I talk about the movies I'm watching and why I'm watching them. Today's episode, surprisingly, is not going to be about a Disney or an animated movie, which seems to be the topic that I've been talking about in the first couple episodes, but believe me, I do watch a lot of those still, so you'll still see quite a few of them. But today I'm actually going to talk about a grown-up movie for once, and that movie is Collateral. This is the movie that my dad calls his favorite movie of all time. And while if that's not a ringing endorsement, I don't know what is. It displaced Patton, so I guess that's a shocker. But little background: if you haven't seen the movie Collateral, here's a little bit of kind of what the story's about. So it's about this cab driver played by Jamie Foxx in Los Angeles, and he's pretty much kind of low key. He cleans up. He makes his cab really nice. He knows his stuff. He's a great cab driver and all that. And he picks up this fare he picks up a woman at the airport. And drives her downtown. And in that they kind of like bond a little bit. And she ultimately gives him her number. And he kind of feels like things might be looking up a little bit. He might actually be some of his dreams, he might be able to achieve them. He just starts to feel really good about himself. And after he drops her off, he picks up another fare, played by Tom Cruise. Now, Tom Cruise kind of comes onto the scene, and you don't really know what he's doing there. He seems like a very stern businessman. And he tells him, he'll pay him, $1,000 if he just, drives him around all night long, because he's got to make a number of stops. So basically to be his personal, cab driver for the night. And so Jamie Foxx agrees. And in the first stop, a dead body lands on his cab, and it turns out that Tom Cruise is basically going around killing people, and the people he's killing are all specific targets for this drug lord who is about to face some pretty heavy litigation and all that. So he's basically taking out his witnesses and anybody who's got any kind of a case against him, and Tom Cruise is the one who's taking these people out, and Jamie Foxx gets sucked into this his plan of taking these people out one by one. And the movie follows the two of them as they go through this, and as they kind of have these discussions, and you see it's an interesting kind of little claustrophobic movie about these two people. Jamie Foxx is pretty much kidnapped throughout this entire movie, but Tom Cruise is not like he's a psychopath, but he's also got kind of this like weird almost philosophical aspect to him. And ultimately, not to give there's not really a twist in the movie, but ultimately what it gets down to is that the last target on his list is the woman that Jamie Foxx picked up in his cab first. And so, he kind of has this like, superhero moment, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to take this crap anymore. And he, kind of fights back, and it gets into a little bit more of an action movie ending there at the end, which certainly makes it for a very exciting ending. The ending of this movie is, it's a little cliche, but it's fantastic. It's just a really fun ending to a movie. Collateral, I'm not going to say it's my favorite movie like my dad, but it's certainly a fantastic movie, and there's a number of reasons why. Michael Mann directed it, and if you know anything about Michael Mann, he knows how to direct kind of the cops and robbers movie. Case in point, perhaps the greatest cops and robbers movie ever made, and one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time, and that would be Heat. Heat was mind-blowingly good, and Michael Mann did it because he took the paradigm, he took the good guy bad guy paradigm, he kind of flipped it on its head, and he took that story and threw it into this action movie that has a lot more than just action. That also has the relationships between these people, the characters. They're really character stories, and he kind of took what he did with Heat and progressed it a little bit with movies like The Insider, which was another just mind-blowingly good movie about the tobacco industry and a whistleblower in the tobacco industry. If you haven't seen The Insider, you really should. That's just a really extremely well done movie. Al Pacino, Russell Crowe, to name a few people in that movie. But so he took kind of what that like visceral character story that he did with Heat, and he put that into The Insider. And then he tried again with Ali, and despite being a very good movie, it was not the same kind of like heavy hitter. In fact, it was almost more like taking what he did well in Heat and The Insider and kind of just bloating it a little bit. And it wasn't because of Will Smith's fantastic acting in that movie. It was just because he kind of dragged the story a little bit, and it didn't have that kind of emotional oomph that you want from you would expect from a movie like that. So Collateral was the next movie after Ali, and he came out, with Collateral kind of as sort of like, okay, I'm going to step back from these like genre pieces, and I'm going to just do kind of like a more, you know, basic bare bones action type movie. And what we got is Collateral, and I can say he succeeded because he did what he does well, which is one of the things I've always loved about Michael Mann is his ability to capture kind of the night. He might have gone a little bit overboard with it when he did Miami Vice, but here the whole story takes place at night, so he does a lot of, night shots of LA and all that, and it's just he does beautiful cinematography with that. The direction is fantastic. And but also that character part, the part that we saw in Heat, where you have almost like the juxtaposition of who's good, who's bad. Here, I'm not saying that that same juxtaposition exists, but you have this kind of like this this like closed off character, this very like hardened character in Jamie Foxx, and then you have this just like focused, kind of almost perfect in his execution character played by Tom Cruise in one of his first ever villain roles. I mean, he's kind of played villains before, but this was like a villain, like an actual villain, and he nails it. He does, because it still has that Tom Cruise likability. You don't hate the guy, but you know that he's just so determined. His will is so strong, and that's what makes him such a strong character. And just the two of them and their interactions and how they grow together in this narrative to the end, and ultimately they learn something from each other, and obviously one of them walks away. They don't both walk away from this, only one of them walks away. So why did I choose this movie? For one, this is a movie that I watch frequently, is a relative term for me because I have such a wide collection of movies. It's hard to really have a frequent viewing, with the exception of maybe The Lion King or Lilo and Stitch. But it's one that I do watch fairly often, maybe like once a year, and it's a great movie because it is that just kind of like it's not a complicated movie in terms of the story. It does there is a good story, but it's not horribly complicated. It's pretty easy to follow. It is a standard kind of action movie. The action is really well done. There's a couple of great scenes. Obviously, the end, like I said, this sort of like last second chase scene is a great ending to the movie. But there's also this awesome club scene where they go to this. One of the targets he has is done in this, like dance club, and that scene is really just, that's just like that kind of solid action. You almost like think, this is what John Wick kind of took the inspiration from for its own like nightclub that bathhouse nightclub scene in John Wick. Take that from Collateral. A little bit, but I mean, it's one of those that you see in a lot of action movies, but it was really well executed here. Um, so, and just the music and the all that really came together. And I wanted to watch kind of a more serious movie last night, so I ended up watching Collateral, um, because I think that it's one of those movies that it's even though it's an action movie, even though it's a really cliched movie, there's still enough there to really grab your attention and actually get you thinking about it. Not to mention, there's just a perfect ensemble cast. You always have Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx was actually nominated for an Oscar for this movie. He won that year for Ray, so he didn't win for this one, but he was nominated for this role. And then you had Mark Ruffalo in one of the few roles that I actually think he does well in. Not a big Ruffalo fan, but who knows? Jada Pinkett Smith, she is in this movie, as well as, oh my god, I just forgot it. um, but I mean, just the cast in this movie is spot on. They really do nail it, and they bring this kind of character piece to life, and that's what you really want in a movie like this. You want it to have, this, you want to care about the characters and you want to see kind of where they go with it. So, last movie I watched was Collateral. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. If you have, then you know why I recommend it. So, thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. That's Collateral, just in case you forgot. See you next time.